So I'm not really sure how this whole thing got started, but we're involved in this thing called the Sunflower Showdown of 2020. And I got an email from one of the channels involved asking do we want to participate, and I said sure, why not. So there's I think 6 channels involved. There may be more at this point, but there's Deep South Homestead, my buddy Jason over at Cog Hill Farms. We've got Chad at Adler Farms. We've got Wes at the Naked Hog, and Aaron at 4 Kids and a Farm. And I'll put some links below to all their channels so you can check out their sunflower growing videos as well. So my best guess is some of these guys were growing some of our American Giant hybrid sunflowers here, and they thought it'd be fun to have a little competition and see who could grow the largest sunflower. And from what I understand, there's not a whole lot of rules here. You can kind of grow them however you want to grow them. And at the end of July, I think, we'll see who's got the biggest. And we're going to determine the biggest sunflower based on height and based on the largest bloom diameter. Now these things here are supposed to get pretty daggum big, on up to about 15 foot or so in some instances. And the heads, from what I understand, can get, you know, about a foot in diameter. So those are some pretty big sunflowers there. Now, I did grow these last year, and I just kind of threw them out there. Didn't really take a whole lot of care of them. I didn't put them on irrigation or anything. And they didn't get 15 foot tall, and the heads didn't get a foot in diameter. But this year, since we're doing this as a part of a competition, I'm going to be a little more careful with how I grow these things and baby them along, because we want to win this thing. We're in it to win it. Now, some of the other channels involved have already started a little smack talk back and forth on their channels about who's going to grow the biggest sunflower, and even doing some impersonations of fellow YouTubers like myself and Danny and Jason over at Cog Hill. And that was quite comical, I do have to admit. But I'm not going to talk any smack, because I've learned some life lessons over the years. Usually if you start talking smack early, it can end up bite you in the butt towards the end there. So we're not going to talk a whole lot of smack. We are, from what I've seen, everybody else has got their videos out. It appears that we are the last ones to get our seeds going. Everybody else started earlier this week when the official competition began. So we're a little behind, but that's okay, because, you know, I just felt it was fair to give the rest of these guys a little bit of a head start. Like I said, there's no rules in this thing, really. So you could direct seed them or you could transplant them. We have a greenhouse here. We've got seed trays, pro mix, all that good stuff. So I'm going to transplant mine. I think that's going to give them a little quicker head start so I can get them going. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be transplanting or seeding a tray of these American Giant sunflowers so we can get started on this competition, and so that we're not too far behind. So the first thing we're going to do here is go ahead and get down with some Pro Mix in our seed starting tray. Go ahead and get this puppy filled up nicely. This stuff's pretty dry. It's going to take a little bit of moisture to get it nice and wet for those seeds. And if you never saw us do any videos in the greenhouse, this is the way we like to grow just about everything we transplant. We grow them in these 162 trays. We use this Pro Mix, which is hands down the best seed starting mix out there, and just makes a really nice plug or transplant. And we don't step a whole lot of stuff up around here. We plant almost everything directly out of these 162 trays here. So I'm just going to smooth it out, level it out, and then, like I said, this stuff's pretty dry, so we're going to wet it down good a couple times. So what we'll do is we'll just kind of wet it down, let that water soak in a minute, wait a second or two, wet it again. You don't want to put your nozzle too close to it because you'll spray all your potting mix or your seed start mix everywhere. So just be kind of gentle with it, and we'll get it going here. And once we can tell that that water is kind of freely draining out of the bottom, we know everything is pretty wet. And that should be pretty good right there. So I'm gonna let that soak in for just a second there. Got my feet wet. And then I'm gonna just poke me some dibbles in this tray here with my fingers. And anytime you're planting seeds like this, you always want to think about your planting depth. You don't want to plant too deep. The usual theory there is that you want your hole to be twice as big or twice as deep as the diameter of your seed. And when we were on the row by row show, I don't know if it was this past week or the week before last, I was talking a little bit about this showdown, and Dad, also known as Greg, said he wanted to get involved. So that's why I'm growing a whole flat of them here. So I'll have 80 plants, he'll have 80 plants. So we'll have our own little competition within Hoss Tools in addition to the big sunflower showdown amongst all these YouTube channels that are involved. All right, we got our dibbles made. I'm gonna go ahead and put me a marker in here because I'm liable to come in here and start some more sunflowers in the next few days. So I want to make sure I know which flat the giant ones are. And this is a 162 cell tray. We got 50 seeds per pack, so it looks like it's going to take us a little over 3 packs to fill these guys up. And I'm just going to put 1 seed per cell. These are some pretty big seeds. I don't know if you can see them right there, but pretty big sunflower seeds. Are kind of white, real pretty. We're just going to put 1 seed per cell here, get them nice and snug down in that hole. And transplanting like this is going to be a little faster than if I were to direct seed them. Just because we're inside this greenhouse here, we're on a heat mat, we're in a controlled environment. We can come out here twice a day or more often if we need to, and we can water these guys, keep them nice and moist. So that's going to be a little faster than if we direct seed them in the ground. And then also, it's going to conserve seed. If we were to direct seed these things, you know, we'd probably have to come in and thin them out. I don't know what spacing, eventual spacing I'm going to use. I might, you know, put them a foot apart or so. If I'm going to plant them on drip tape, and our emitters are 1 foot apart, so I'm probably going to put them 1 foot apart, the transplants there. And we got a few tricks up our sleeves, what we're going to do once we put them on that drip tape to get them nice and healthy, and hopefully they'll grow really, really fast. All right, I need 1 more packet here. Open. And we'll just keep putting them in there. And these things won't take long at all to germinate. Sunflowers are usually pretty fast germinating plants. And I'm not sure how any of the other guys are growing them. They just kind of did a video talking about it. I didn't notice a whole lot of talk about growing techniques. Maybe they're keeping all that a secret, but I just hope Danny and them don't grow theirs in their greenhouse. They did a video the other day showing some cucumbers in their greenhouse, and man, they have got some awesome looking produce growing in that thing. So I think if he was to grow them in his greenhouse, we wouldn't all stand a chance, but maybe he'll grow them outside to keep it all kind of standardized and fair. All right, we almost got them all there. 9 more cells left. And we'll know when these things are ready to go in the ground, when they're ready to pull out of the tray. So that's kind of our general rule, is transplants are ready when you can tug on that stem a little bit and they'll pull right out of this tray here. So they'll probably be that tall or so, I would say. And once they get a nice little root ball, we don't want a root wrap, but we want a nice little root ball around this massive soil that's in each cell here. And when we can pull that stem and pull it out, it's ready to go in the ground. Now, in past years, I have always came in here with more Pro Mix and just kind of crumbled it on the top here to kind of cover these seeds. But we've been doing something a little different this year, and I want to show you that. So this year, instead of dusting the top with more Pro Mix or seed starting mix, we've been using perlite. Now, this is the little real light white speck stuff that you see in your seed starting mix. This is just straight perlite here. And all the commercial farmers, all the produce farmers around here, this is what they use in their greenhouses. And we've seen them use it for years. Didn't really know why. Had a few theories, maybe why. We asked them, they didn't really know why. They just said that's what they've always done. It's always worked. So we tried it, and it has worked really good for starting seeds in the greenhouse. Some people have said that it keeps the fungus gnats off of them. I think one of the main benefits I've seen is that it keeps this kind of crust from forming here, which you can get some algae and some mold sometimes. So it keeps that crust from forming over these individual cells. It just works great. So I'm just going to come in here and we're just going to sprinkle it over the top and cover these seeds. And the wind's blowing a little bit, so this can get a little messy sometimes. So we won't cover them with any soil. We're just covering them with straight perlite here. And we're going to keep experimenting with this throughout this year. And if it keeps working well for us, we'll try it on a bunch of different crops. We could end up putting some of this in our seed starting kits so everybody can try this method here if it keeps working as well as it has. I'll make sure I get them all covered up nice there. All right, that looks like it's going to do it. Maybe a little more right there. All right, and then we just need to water that in good. Like I said, we don't want to put this nozzle way down here. We'll, you know, spray everything all over the place to kind of keep it elevated there and just lightly sprinkle it. Wait a second, let it all soak down, and then we'll do it again. And one more time should be good. All right, we can kind of see down there the nice and moist on the bottom. So this is our entry right here to the giant sunflower growing competition, also known as the Sunflower Showdown. And if you follow us on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, we'll be sure to keep up and give you guys some updates as to how these things are going along when they get ready to put in the ground. We'll probably do a video showing you how we're going to put them in the ground, put them on drip tape, and kind of our plan going forward, taking care of them. I know some of the other channels are likely to try to keep some of their methods a secret, but we're going to show you how we do it. So if we do grow some big ones, you'll know how to grow some big ones in your garden in the future. If you want to be a part of this competition, you don't have to be a YouTube channel or have a YouTube channel. Anybody can do it, and so you just go on our site. You could order this American Giant Hybrid Sunflower. I'll put a link below so you can check that out and order you some, and you know, grow yours out however you think the best way is. And once we get to the end, at the end of July, you can measure yours and you can post them on our row by row group on Facebook, and maybe some of you out there can grow bigger sunflowers than any of us YouTubers who try to act like we know what we're doing sometimes. So look forward to seeing all you guys' pictures of growing these giant sunflowers and seeing just how big one of these things can get. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure to give me a big thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and that bell button so you get notified every time we come out with a new video. And check out these two videos right here. A couple other videos I've did in the past on planting and growing sunflowers. I think you'll really enjoy those as well. We'll see you next time.